how to set up their power. So they're so hard, so they're constantly exaggerating their energies right away, think they're going to hit harder, and basically they're hitting weaker, And so what I have been pushing, for example, I just had a class with all my black belts. I do this once a month. I get all my black belts together. And we just worked on transitions, and I call it just basic Goju training. And so, for an example, as you step it in Goju, kind of semicircle, half circle type movement as such from Sanchen to Sanchen, you kind of see a lot of students, they would stiff up and make that step instead of relaxing and shifting the weight where it should be and then having a solid base to throw a technique off of, So that's why I kind of come up, sometime back with a Gogoro, that you have to have softness. If you're going to say that you're practicing Goju and everything is all hard, are you really practicing Goju or are you calling it Goju and doing something else, So I've been putting a lot of emphasis actually on the transition, softer movements, get into a solid base, and deliver a strong, solid technique off of that, And so I'm seeing progress in that. And where I really, really ran to that was in Israel. I spent some time over there. And it was kind of Gogoro, but I could understand because those people have been at war all their lives, and their thing was if they hit somebody, they'd try to kill them, And so even though I put a lot of emphasis when I was over there in the softness of it, I did see some transition that was made. And I still see it, We had one young man over there wanted to come back to this country and train with me for 6 months. So he got out of the Army. He did come. He ended up staying 3.5 years, And so he is now over there teaching, And so,
that's a long time to be in your basement.
Oh, yeah. But it was funny. He's just a really, really good competitor, I mean, he competed in judo, competed in karate, and even he wanted to learn how to box. So so we worked on boxing skills with him. Then he wanted to fight. So they had the cage fighters here in Lincoln for a while, And so after we won the title, he said, "Well, that's it." But I said, "Well, you did what you want to do, and that's fine, So he stayed a few months after that. Then he went back to Israel, So now he's teaching over there.
What you talk about the hard aspect in the karate, and you've explained that. But do you see the same thing transferring over into the judo world as well? Does that hard attitude? Do you see it across stylistic boundaries?
Well, I do, and to me, I just have to speak my feeling about it. I think right now judo sucks, and the reason why I say that is that because of the rules that we have, you don't have to train actually in judo. You have to train in strength. In other words, you spend time on the weights and things like that. And I'm not knocking it by no means. But years ago, when you had a set of rules of where you needed one full point to win or a half a point to win, then you actually seen people training. But now you got this here
Koka and Yuko.
Yeah, you got this stuff all in there now. So. And one reason that happened, and again, this is my opinion, that the Europeans kind of changed those rules around to where they can actually get on the same level as the Japanese or some of the Orientals. So you didn't have to train hard. And of course, in Europe, the wrestling was really heavy. So you see a lot of wrestlers now involved in that. And so basically, if you watch the Olympics, now this is not 100% true, but if somebody gets a coco on you, you're never going to beat them guys. In other words, they're going to tap and run until the clock run out, So, and anybody can do that. But if they would do away with this here Yuko and Koka type thing and go back to the half point and the point, then you're actually going to see people training technique instead of what I call now slop judo, as I often call sometimes slop ru and karate, But it's just sad just to see what's happened to it. And let's look at the U.S., for example. I think in world standing now, we're somewhere around 34th or 35th in world standing. And then you got Cuba in the top 5, you got Brazil in the top 10, and some of the other smaller countries. So something's wrong with that picture there.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things wrong with that. One of them is that our country doesn't support on a financial basis,
Yeah, and that's the other side of that coin too,
Yeah.
So basically, if we were going to try to get better in judo, we need to get a team together. We need to send a team to Europe. We need to send teams to compete in those countries, compete in Europe, compete in Japan, compete in South America. And that's where kids are going to get stronger, But the way it is now, because of the political thing, and it's just sad. But
Yeah.
everybody wants to, everybody wants to be the top gun, and they're not doing a thing for judo, but they're trying to do it for themselves.
Well, yeah, it's like baseball. There's a lot of batting cages, but there's not a lot of pitching cages.
That's right. That's right.
Just for fun, what's your favorite movie?
Pretty Woman.
Really?
Well,
yeah.
No, that's not totally true. I like Pretty Woman,
Yeah, one of them.
And then that's one. But then I like the Karate Kid one. That was a good movie. And I was kind of biased because I hear the term Miyagi in there, and he was also referring, making phrases in there that it doesn't matter, just train. So I kind of developed the attitude, keep your mouth shut and train. Keep it simple, keep it practical, and just train.
You have a pretty large martial arts library. What would you recommend our listeners get a hold of? Let's say that somebody's just getting into judo or karate, not really, or maybe even jiu-jitsu or so forth. What are you looking? What should somebody be looking for? I mean, because everybody wants to augment their training. What would you say out there's some stuff to look at? Would you be reading Dave Lowry, or what would you be looking at?
Well, probably my recommendation to a student is get the Book of Five Rings and read that thing. If you read it one time, read it 25 times. It's just a good book. A lot of these books that's out on the market, if you read one, you read them all. Teachers in many cases saying the same thing, but come across just a little bit differently. Punch is a punch, kick is a kick. What does that talk about? If you're punching and you're kicking, if you look at 10 different books, you'll see 10 different people talking about the punches and kicks, but they talk about the same thing. So, I think anything that you can read that might benefit you is good. And what I tell my judo students, for an example, don't buy books. Unless you have a particular book that you really like, yes, get it. But go to the library, check out 2 or 3 books. Not to read those 2 or 3 books, but say, for an example, Uchimata. What is this author saying about Uchimata? You put that book down, that's it. You go to the next book. What is this author saying about Uchimata? You put that book down. You go to the next book. And so you read about this particular throw. Now, how can it adapt to me? You see? And so take those books back to the library. Next time you get another throw or something like that, then go check them out again and look up that throw. But far as, I see there's some good judo books out there. There's some good karate books out there. But in most cases, they're saying the same thing.
That is a fascinating way of approaching it. You're simply saying, find out what you want to learn about and go to the library and find out what a multiple group of people are saying about that, take it, and then go put it on the floor.
That's exactly right? That's exactly right. And my slogan now, the answer is on the floor. So I don't know if you've seen my web, but we're going right across the front there. The answer's on the floor. Keep it simple and keep it practical,
Well, let's talk about that. You do talk about KIS and KIP. What are those words, and how do listeners bring them to their training?
Well, number one, what I call kuchiwaza, mount technicians. There's 9 billion of them out there. Okay, so I tell students, stay away from politics, keep your mouth shut, get on the floor, and just train. So while people are running their mouths or kuchiwaza or whatever thing, you're out there training, And so sometimes you watch movies, for an example, you see guys flying through the air. Well, you'd just be surprised that the people think that's people are actually doing that. I said, well, some of them are doing it, but then a lot of them have an aid of a trampoline, something like that. So to me, that's not very practical. And the other part of it is that you see a lot of old fancy stuff. I watched a demonstration some years ago in Long Beach, and the announcer made a statement, Mr. So-and-so, I won't call her names, going to execute 32 techniques. Well, he didn't. And the guy threw one punch, and he stood there, and the guy threw 32 techniques on him, and then the guy finally falls down. Well, I think if you got to have to throw 32 techniques, man, you better take off or get you a pistol or something and get out of training. So to me, that's not very practical, and it's certainly not simple. So to me, you just have to keep things simple. You learn your techniques. Okay, the fancy stuff is not going to work, and